What is up, everybody? Welcome to the NFL Draft Bible Prospect Profit Show. I butchered that. We are on the Fan Nation Network, powered by Sports Illustrated. We are here talking about the Steelers and the Bills today. I don't remember the last time we had the whole gang together. It's nice to see you, fellas. We're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Buffalo Bills. Alec, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. I'm excited. Two teams that had some impressive years last year. Am I frozen?
No, you're good.
No, you're
okay.
Good.
Two teams who had impressive years last year and were real exciting to talk about this year. We'll see if either of them can repeat the success that they had last year. Jack's got all the background on that, but Lorenz, buddy, how you doing?
Doing good. Rocking the Prophets gear, my awesome shirt that I finally got out of my closet. But I'm really excited about both these teams to talk about them. I think there's one team clearly on the ascension here, and one team that's kind of going all in. Trying to have a last quarter Super Bowl run with their sort of aging quarterback, in my opinion. But we'll get into it. These are certainly two exciting teams to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to have a take about that. I've got a take.
That's on Lorenz.
About that quarterback. You'll hear him coming up soon. So we'll start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This year in the draft class, they took Najee Harris, the running back out of Alabama, Pat Freiermuth, the tight end out of Penn State, Kendrick Green, the center out of Illinois, Dan Moore, offensive tackle out of Texas A&M, Buddy Johnson, linebacker at Texas A&M, Isaiah Loudermilk, the defensive end out of Wisconsin, Quincy Roche for the brand, outside linebacker out of Miami, Trey Norwood, the safety out of Oklahoma, and Presley Harvin, the third, the excellent, massive punter out of Georgia Tech. Just a draft crush all over the place. Then on their guys who they have on a first-year deal who are, obvious studs. TJ Watt, he's up for a contract this year. He's probably going to get paid big time if he's not franchise tagged. Devin Bush, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who they traded for from the Dolphins. Chase Claypool, I considered him a stud. He had a great last year, and he had a nice. I need it. Oh, he had a nice preseason catch that I got the chance to watch the other day, last week actually. Deontay Johnson, I included him, and then possibly Alex Highsmith, the outside linebacker. I'm just gonna throw him in there as a possibility. Gentlemen, what do you think of this young nucleus? Alec, what do you think of the Steelers? These young bucks they got?
Well, they do have a lot of young players that are real interesting. Specifically, I mean, you could talk about that draft class. They're kind of building towards a run-first team. Obviously, the past couple of years, they haven't really been able to do that. James Conner hasn't been able to really take over in that sense. Najee Harris will be able to do that for them. You talk about building it in the middle of the offensive line, which they did, to really benefit Najee Harris, and I think that they did well there. They've got young receivers that are fairly above average, I guess you can say, and you also have a defense that can compete. Alex Highsmith, Bud Dupree is gone, actually, not Bud Dupree. I meant Quincy Roche. You got some young guys, TJ Watt, obviously, on that defense that are going to really be able to push this team further. Obviously, the big question, though, is the quarterback position, and they are not young there. And they might not be they definitely are not set there either.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. They are not young anywhere, pretty much. Lorenz, anything you want to chip in there?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say I like their draft class. I was one of the few people that like their draft class. I think Najee Harris is going to be a top 10 running back in the league. I think Pat Freiermuth can be a starting tight end. Really like Kendrick Green. I think he can be at least a good backup, eventual starter. Same goes for both the Texas A&M kids who had good games in their first outing. So I really thought they had a good draft class, really some depth. The first 6 picks, if I can count 5 picks, I think are all going to be contributors for this football team. And then young talent, I mean, I'm a little hung up with the wide receiver core. They are pretty young there, but Chase Claypool to me is a role player, good role player, vertical guy, really good athlete, can catch the football really well. And Deontay Johnson, if he could catch, he'd be young talent on first deal all day, but he can't. So I'm kind of out on that. And then, Alex Highsmith is getting there. But they'll have to extend TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick here soon. They're going to be expensive, but rightfully so. Those two guys are studs.
All right. Moving on to the salary cap and the roster configuration as a whole. They've got the 2022 season or off season, they're going to have $73.4 million in free space. They're loaded with old players at the top of their, contracts. We'll get into that in a second. This coming year, like I said, $73.4 million in free space with 45 players under contract. In 2023, they're jumping all the way up to 173 million players with 28 under contract. And after that, it's 219. So, they're this coming year, this next year, 2023 is when they're going to have to really, that's when they're going to start shelling out money like crazy. They got that young nucleus as well as these old guys. Speaking of these old guys, the top 5 cap numbers that they have on this team right now, Ben Roethlisberger is getting paid just under $26 million. That's insane. I understand why they pay, you pay your quarterback that much, but I just don't think they're getting their money for the bang for their buck there. Joe Hayden, the corner, he's at 15.5. Stephon Tuitt, 14.9. TJ Watt's at $10 million and Cameron Hayward's at 7.4. On average, those 5 players have accrued over 10 seasons on average. So that's a lot of age. And, depending on what you think of Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Hayden, Cameron Hayward's obviously still a big player in this game. But just, that's a lot of money going to guys that might not really be, I'll say, earning it. So in terms of strengths, I know we might have all just disagreed on this. I'm going to consider the wide receiver core a strength at this point. They're a young team. Like Lorenz pointed out, they got some hands issues, but there's a lot of different skill sets and talents here. I kind of like it with Juju Smith-Schuster, with Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. I gave their defensive line a strength. Casey Hayward, Tyson Alualu, and Stephon Tuitt an edge. They got T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and they signed Melvin Ingram from the Chargers. And then on the inside, I gave them the inside linebacker, Joe Schobert, who they just traded for from the Jaguars. We're still waiting to see what that compensation was. And then something Bush. Devin Bush. No, not Devin Bush. Devin Bush. Oh, my God. I'm blanking. Devin Bush, they drafted a couple years, and then at safety, Terrell Edmonds and Minkah Fitzpatrick are guys that I consider a strength. I'm going to skip over the weaknesses because I think it's going to be a fun talking point. For their average and unproven, I'm just going to say, running back and tight end, unproven. I'm a big Pat Freiermuth guy, and I'm obviously a big Najee Harris guy. I think they're both going to be good, but I'm just going to call them unproven at this time. And I consider the cornerback room average at this point. And then their weaknesses, I don't like their offensive line. They've got Okorafor, Dotson, Hassanar, Turner, and Banner. And then I considered Big Ben a weakness on this team. I'm going to say it. I do not think that he is – shut up, Zach.
Zach is going at you.
I know. It's fun. I do not consider Big Ben a strength on this team. I think he's at this point a liability. I think he's a misuse of money, misuse of resources. Lorenz, you used to live in Pittsburgh. Tell me about this roster configuration, this money allocation, all that good stuff.
I think they got a good roster. I think you can win. I mean, let's go over the defense first. That's an absolutely loaded unit. You got playmakers on all 3 levels. I'm a little worried about the cornerback room, but I think Mike Tomlin, former DB coach, really since they got that pass rush and that front 7 working again, they've been a really good defensive football team last 3 seasons, and that's just going to continue. I think Joe Schobert is a solid ad. I think people are making him better than he is. He's not going to be anything crazy. He had a 4 interception season a couple of years ago, and people lost their minds. Still, I mean, I don't want to get too deep. This Joe Schobert, he'll be all right. It's a good ad for a day 3 draft pick. Defense is loaded outside the cornerback room. That's going to be a top 5 defense in the league, in my opinion, if they stay healthy. I like the wide receiver room. I think it's 3 role players, but if you have 3 good role players and keeping a guy like James Washington, who someone should absolutely send whatever he's going to cost, 4th, 5th round pick, I'd do that all day of the week, any day of the week, and go get that guy, because that dude can be a number 2. James Washington can be my Z all day. Any day of the week. But let's get into the weaknesses, because that's the fun part, and it's a lot of offensive stuff. I mean, look, here's where I stand on Big Ben. I think Big Ben is obviously past his prime. He's obviously not in his, but we all I see him similar to how I saw Phillip Rivers last season going into the year, where I said, hey, Phillip Rivers with this Colts team gonna have a really good run game, gonna have a really good offensive line. Now we're not gonna have a really good offensive line with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what I'm worried about is that Big Ben's gonna take it up on himself like he did last year, throw 40 passes a game. I like Big Ben if he's throwing 20 to 25 passes a game. I really don't like Big Ben if he has to throw 40 a game. I think he's still an average quarterback. He can win games with Ben Roethlisberger. I don't think he'll win a Super Bowl. That's why I think they're treading a bit of water. But really looking at this roster, I think it's better than I initially thought going in. But having O-line as a weakness, which that I'll give, that's a weakness, especially both tackle spots, in my opinion. That's a huge weakness in this league. If you can pass protect, it's going to be tough. If you can run block, I think run blocking is going to be all right. I think Najee's going to get his carries. It's just going to be up to Big Ben, maybe try and do too much.
Yeah. Alec, you got anything you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, to be fair to Big Ben, I don't think he can get any worse than he was last year. And they still won 12 games last year. And obviously the playoffs didn't go so well for them. But I think their running game is improved. I think that their tight end position is going to be improved this year. Their offensive line has gotten worse, and their receivers are where they're at. You won't find any James Washington hate on the show because I love the kid. I think that he deserves to be one of – I honestly think he's a better receiver for them than Deontay Johnson because he's super physical at the catch point and actually catches the ball. And then runs fairly clean routes. So I think that when you look at all that, this team can kind of do something similar to what they did last year. I think you're looking at a team that could probably win 11 games, but that offensive line has to hold up. And with those young players, I don't know if it will.
I just saw what Zach said. Zach called me pretty. The next one's what I laughed at. That's really funny.
He just got you there. I mean, that's.
I don't.
Sorry.
I was
sorry.
So I liked when Duck Hodges came out. I was driving around the country a lot, and I heard Pat McAfee had a whole like fan club for Duck Hodges. I'm a big Duck Hodges fan. I don't even think he plays for the Steelers anymore.
I was on a training camp and he was throwing the ball, so I asked my friend who's an actual Pittsburgh fan. I was like, "Who's that guy?" And he didn't know, so we had to both go on the internet and had to find whoever he was, and then he wound up starting like half the season for them that year.
Ducky Hodges. All right. So last thing we're going to cover before we do our over-unders for the Steelers. They have 8 picks in this upcoming draft. They have all their own other than their 4th round pick. And they're expecting another 3rd in a compensatory pick. And they got an extra 7th from the Jets, and then maybe any extra compensation if they lost any compensation in this trade for Joe Schobert. So 8 picks for the future. They got a lot of aging guys. Yeah, that's true. A lot of aging guys. They're going to need those picks going forward. So the Steelers, their over-under is 8.5. I again think that Vegas it's a good over-under to use. I'll let you guys debate that. Alec, what do you think? Below or over or under?
To be fair, I think roster talent-wise, they're over 8.5, especially in a 17-game season. I think that this team is more talented than that. But the thing you have to take into consideration is I do think that the Ravens and the Browns are more talented than them, both in the division. Obviously, the Bengals, I still think they're better than. I'm going to go over because I do think that they're better than that. But, they could easily lose 4 games in that division. Yeah, I'll take them over, though.
How about you, Lorenz?
Mike Tomlin ain't losing 4 games in that division. I think they win 3 or 4. But, yeah, I'm going. That's one of the easiest overs. I think they win 10, 11 games. I like the defense. I like the head coach. I don't know. Man, like the Steelers, they can be so bad and still win 8 games. Now it's a 17-game season. Like personnel-wise, as as long as I still think the roster's solid enough. I mean, as long as they're not hit by crazy injuries, I think they go over pretty easily.
I am on the other side. I think they go under. I do not have, I do not believe in that offensive line or that quarterback. I think it's going to limit them for the entirety of the season. I think Ben's going to go down at some point. I don't believe in Mason Rudolph, despite what Zach says. I don't like their schedule. I think they're gonna go under. I do not believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can quote me on that for this season. It might come back to bite me. I do not believe in the Steelers.
Let's all put $10 on it so we can take Jack's money.
All right,
Yeah,
all right.
good.
Yeah.
You hear it right here. We got Lorenzo and I are going over. Jack's going under. So as it is, Lorenzo, you gonna respond to your fans?
Nah, that's expected. Is there any German that even comes close to being as cool as I am? I don't think so.
Isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No,
German?
he's Austrian. But yeah, that would be one. I
You
mean,
would
that
know that.
that would be one I couldn't compete with. I don't know. We don't have that many. Actually, David Bada got a sack yesterday night, which was awesome.
I did see your tweet about that.
Shout out to him. Yeah, German defensive lineman came straight from the GFL. Amazing story, but not the topic of this show. Let's get into the Buffalo Bills.
Yep, talking Bills now. So, Bills this year, they drafted Greg Rousseau, the defensive end, friend of the show from Miami. Then they got another defensive end, Carlos Basham out of Wake Forest. Took Spencer Brown, another one of our favorites on this show, the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Tommy Doyle, the offensive tackle out of Miami, Ohio, not the Florida Miami. Marquez Stevenson, the wide receiver from Houston. DeMar Hamlin, their own Pitts. He's from Pitt, is what I'm trying to say. Their local guy is safety, Rashad Wildgoose, the cornerback out of Wisconsin, and Jack Anderson, the offensive guard at Texas Tech. Young players that I think are talented on their first year deal still. Josh Allen
just got extended.
Oh, crap. Yeah, I think the other guy did too. Trey White, did he get extended yet?
He was up for it. I think he might have. Hang on, I'll pull it up. You keep talking.
All right. I didn't. Jermaine Edmonds, Cody Ford, and Levi Wallace were the guys I think are young talents who have not yet been extended from their team. Josh Allen, I have been proven wrong, and Trey White possibly. So, that's a young nucleus. Having your franchise quarterback locked up already. We'll get to his contract in a second. It's at the moment friendly because it's still, he's been extended, but he's still paying for that first year for that rookie contract. Alec, what do you think of this Bills nucleus?
I mean, you can't go wrong with what they've built so far. I mean, obviously I've been a Josh Allen hater. That's not hater. Although with that money, I think I'd date him. But I've been a Josh Allen hater for since he was drafted. I don't believe that he is as talented as the numbers make him out to be. I think that there's a lot of scheme help there. I think Brian Daboll is one of the smartest offensive minds in the game. I do, however, think that he has made tremendous improvements in his game since coming out of the draft. So if it continues, he's going to continue to get better and better, and he does have arm talent that is just excellent for the league. But what they've built around him is really impressive. I mean, I think that their offensive line is going to be pretty good this year. They've got decent receivers. In fact, that's lowballing it. They've got really good receivers. They've got their running game is questionable, but it's also not going to be the main focal point of the offense. And Josh Allen also adds to the running game in the red zone. So you got to take that into consideration. And then defensively, they have young studs. It's just not together right now. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds is really good. They've got Trey White, who's really good. Ed Oliver, I like. I know the statistics aren't there yet, but I really like Ed Oliver. Greg Rousseau, another talented, athletic player. So they've got a ton of young talent that will grow with this team. So I really like what they've built.
Yeah, thank you. Just to clarify, Trey White and Josh Allen have been extended. However, they're still, in their rookie contract part. They've got those deals afterwards. Whatever, Lorenz. Yeah, thank you, Alec. Talking salary cap now, they're going to enter 2022 with only $7.5 million in cap space. That's not good. They'll have 56 players on roster, so that's for right now, that's okay. If they still have 56 guys like leading up to the draft or leading up to free agency, only $7.5 million is going to be less good. We'll see how that plays out. In 2023, they'll only have 30 players on the roster and only $66.9 million, in free space. And then 2024, $158.8 million with only 13 players. So their roster, what this says is that they've got a lot of homegrown players, who are going to start getting paid as well. A lot of homegrown players who are getting paid or are about to get paid. That's a good thing for longevity, but it means that you're going to run into those stress points. And I think next year could be the start of a stress point for the Bills, about 2 years worth of stress points. Hopefully they get big enough draft classes, which we'll talk about in a second. Their top 5 cap numbers. Deion Dawkins, their left tackle, gets paid $11.3 million this year. Josh Allen, working on the tail end of his rookie deal, $10.2 million. They got Jerry Hughes, Mitch Morse, and Mario Addison, all within $8 to $9.5 million. So a lot invested in the offensive and defensive line monetarily. I don't know if that has worked entirely, which is something we'll talk about in a minute. But it also shows that if Josh Allen, who is this is just for the tail end of his rookie deal as a this year cap number, if he is the second highest paid, that means that they're not shelling out a lot of money in free agency. It works out for them. I think once they start extending some of these guys, these numbers are going to hike up big time. But right now, their current cap looks healthy. It's next year and the year after that where it gets a little worse. Strengths, I consider the quarterback position, Josh Allen, a strength. Wide receiver, they got Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, and Cole Beasley. I consider that a strength.
Who is your favorite player in the NFL?
What? Why is that? No, stop spreading this.
Keep the Jack roast going.
I just do that. I'm here for you.
It was just way too much Cole Beasley content on my Twitter timeline this entire summer, so I just had to bring that up.
Yeah. When he said that, when he said favorite player, I was like Stephon. I was like, I like Stephon. Oh, he means Cole Beasley. At corner, I like
roasted.
Levy Wallace and Trey White, I consider a strength. Their safeties, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, I consider strengths. Linebacker, I consider Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano strengths. I consider their only weakness on this roster, and this could even be debated. I consider the tight end position, Dawson Knox, as a weakness. I was really hoping that I really liked the fit of Pat Freiermuth with this Bills offense. I thought they could get him, maybe they spend a late first rounder. I'm high on Pat Freiermuth. I think he's going to be a great player. I don't love his fit with the Steelers, but I understand it. At an average or unproven, I got offensive line as average. Defensive end, I got as average. Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison. And then defensive tackle, I'm considering Star Lutulele and Ed Oliver as average, but I put a little plus sign next to Ed Oliver. I think that's average but rising. I think Ed Oliver is going to start turning that on, and they're going to make for a very strong crew. Lorenz, I'll give you this one first. What do you think of this roster? What do you think of these strengths and weaknesses for this Buffalo Bills team?
Yeah, it's really a couple positions that I value, and I agree with you that really make me think, or that really make me hesitant to call this team to say that. I mean, they're in the top tier of the AFC, but I just wouldn't pick this team to go all the way, just because I don't love the front seven. I think Ed Oliver is going to take another step. I think Tremaine Edmonds going to take another step. We got to remember those were two guys. I think Edmonds was 19 when he was drafted. Ed Oliver was 20. They keep doing this. This is a regime that really trusts their coaching staff, wants to develop those very raw players in the draft. We saw it this year. Greg Rousseau and Spencer Brown. Those are two absolute coaching staff picks, in my opinion, because you look at the raw traits, you say, we're going to develop these guys, but long story short, I think they're going to keep improving. Love the back seven. Love the not the back seven, but the secondary is great. You got two playmaking safeties, obviously, on defense, and then the offense. Yeah, that O line is probably average, maybe even slightly below average. But we saw last year they did a good job getting by. Got one of the better O line coaches in the game, and then Josh Allen's just going to make up for a lot of it unless he takes another fall. But he was really, I mean, he's continued to evolve mentally, has really turned into one of the smarter quarterbacks in the league. His leadership was never a concern, and now he started becoming a rotational thrower and suddenly fixed his accuracy. So I think Josh Allen is here to stay. Now, is he going to be a perennial MVP? Like, he's not going to be Pat Mahomes probably, but if you want to say that tier, those 2 tiers below, I think in that top 10 Pro Bowl type quarterback range, it's very fair. Having Stephon Diggs helps, who's finally being utilized, man, in that offense. Away from those Vikings offenses where he was also very productive. But let's be honest, like, they're feeding this guy 10 targets a game now, as they should. Long story short, I think this is a really good roster. Just got some concerns about trench play and front 7 on defense. I don't think is Super Bowl winning elite type caliber.
I say we just bring Zach on at all times, just to throw comments in as he sees fit. Just have him.
Drunk Zach in the chat has been fun.
It's a lot of fun.
He's trying to trip me up. I do the intro. I do the research. He's trying to trip me up. I
He
can't
did
be
his
tripped
work.
up. Alec, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that the most impressive thing about this Bills team is their abilities. Agreed. Is their abilities to develop their players. Like Lorenz said, I mean, when you're almost stealing from the draft when you can take players and mold them into what you want them to be. If you told me Josh Allen would ever become an accurate passer in the league, I would have told you you're crazy when he came out. I did not believe he could. And they've developed him into someone who can throw accurately. And when you can take these players and really mold them, it's phenomenal, and the coaching staff deserves a ton of credit.
Yeah, thank you.
Who let the dogs out?
I just want to add, this is before my scouting career, Josh Allen was, I believe, my quarterback 1 that year.
And you had absolutely no idea what you were looking at.
I didn't know what I was looking at.
You didn't know shit about scouting. Now you're trying to take a victory lap. Go take a lap, dude.
This is a few years ago. I was in college. This is, just to age myself. All right, future draft picks. They have all their own picks, and they have additional 7th rounder from the Falcons. With this, with this style of roster construction, they're going to need to hit, on more young guys. I feel confident in a good few of their draft picks this year. I think that they can continue churning this mold forward after they pay some of these bigger names. But I think this model is going to work. Their over/under is 10.5 games this year. I cheated and looked at their schedule. I know what I'm going to give them, but I'll make you go first, Lorenz.
Yeah, I think they go over at the end of the day unless they get hit by injuries. I know Vegas never wants to be too aggressive because then stuff like what happened to the Niners last year can happen. But I think it should be at 11. I guess it is at 11. 11.5 is maybe a bit aggressive, but I think with the 7, I'm going over. Long story short, I mean, I've been picking overs a lot, but I really believe in these football teams, and I think Buffalo, the only way they win less than 10 games or 10 games or less is either Josh Allen takes a huge nosedive or they have bad luck with injuries, which can always happen. But I think this team's built to win that pretty easy. I mean, I guess the Patriots are on the upswing and the Jets, and we'll get into that. But, yeah, I think they're the favorites to win the division, and with that, I think they win 11, 12 games.
How about you, Alec?
Yeah, I'm thinking that I'm going to take the over, and I agree. I think they got to win the division, and they at this point, I think they're the clear favorite to contend against the Chiefs, who really improved this roster, and this dog is going crazy right now. But that's all right. Can't stop, won't stop, But
get out of here, man.
It's really a double chin bark situation. I don't know. I don't know. Let's move on. Jack, what do you think? Over under?
I'm smashing that over. They're gonna kill it. They got an easier enough schedule this year. Their schedule's easy enough. I think they're gonna crush that division. I think they're gonna be. I don't think they're gonna run into too much problem with the Patriots. I think they're gonna. I don't think the Dolphins are gonna be as good starting off as people are talking about. I think they're gonna kill it. That's all I had for you guys. Alec, you want to go ahead and pull us out?
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it on a weird day here. We usually don't go on Fridays, but appreciate everyone who tuned in. Appreciate Zach in the chat roasting Jack. Appreciate my dog going nuts as per usual. I was just thinking right before this started happening that, hey, she's been pretty good today. And then this happened. So love it. But thank you guys again for tuning in. Visit the NFLDraftBible.com. Tons of stuff going out. In fact, we actually just had a meeting for Conference 1, which is going to be an esports adventure that we're going to be going on. So follow Conference 1 on Twitter because that's going to be another affiliate of ours. And stay locked here. Any final words, guys?
Yeah, Eagles lost to the Steelers in the preseason 1 game. What do you expect? Oh my God. Jalen Hurts had a average game. What do you expect? This is going to be – you're looking at the future, my friends. Lorenz, what do you got?
I mean, yeah, I just want to say go to the NFLDraftBible.com. Actually, SI.com/NFL/draft. I don't know if NFLDraftBible.com works anymore. But go on there and go subscribe. Go get all of our scouting reports. We got over 300 in the database. Keep churning out more every day. Really thankful. Shout out to Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl staff getting us more guys to add to the watch list. There's going to be a lot of players covered. There's going to be a lot of players graded. You're going to get a lot of these backgrounds. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be worth it. I think like $6.99 a month. Can't beat it. Go subscribe to it, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow with Adam Holden, who I'm really excited about having on. I think 11 a.m. We'll talk Titans and Saints. He's a Saints fan who covers the Titans for A to Z Sports Nashville. So he'll know a lot more. He'll know what he's talking about, which with those two teams, unlike I do. So Jack and Adam, who actually know their stuff, are going to get to chop it up, and I'll get to talk about the draft classes. It's going to be fun. Tune in for that tomorrow at 11 a.m.